I held my 6-year-old daughter while she shook uncontrollably, her clothes still stained with her mother's blood. The detective kept asking questions, but all I could hear was silence, the kind that comes after gunshots. My wife testified against the Bloods 2 weeks ago. Tonight, they made sure she'd never testify again. And my little girl, she watched it all happen. Hit like, subscribe for more betrayal stories, and comment your city or country. I'm Tristan, Army Ranger. 15 years of service. 3 tours overseas. I've seen things most people only see in nightmares. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for that Tuesday night. Let me take you back 3 weeks. Back when life made sense. Harper and I had been married for 8 years. We met at a coffee shop in Los Angeles when I was home on leave. She was grading papers. I was trying to figure out how to order something that wasn't black coffee. She looked up, smiled, and said, "You look like you need something sweet in your life." She wasn't wrong. Harper was an elementary school teacher at Oakwood Elementary in South LA. Not the safest neighborhood, but she loved those kids like they were her own. Someone has to care about them. Tristan, she'd tell me whenever I worried. Someone has to show them there's a better way. That's who she was. A believer in better. Our daughter Ivy was 6. Bright eyes, Harper's smile, my stubbornness. She was everything good in this world wrapped up in pigtails and light-up sneakers. March 14th. That's when everything changed. Harper stayed late at school for parent-teacher conferences. She was walking to her car around 7:30 when she heard shouting. Then gunshots. She dove behind a dumpster and pulled out her phone. When I got her call, my blood went cold. "Tristan, I just witnessed a shooting. There's a man on the ground. He's not moving. The shooters, they're still here. I'm hiding. Stay down." I told her, already grabbing my keys. "I'm calling 911. Do not move. Do not make a sound." The police arrived within minutes. The victim was a 17-year-old kid named Marcus. Shot 4 times. He died before the ambulance arrived. Harper had seen everything. The shooters, the car they came in, even caught part of it on her phone when she tried to call for help. When I got to the school, she was sitting in the back of a police car, wrapped in a blanket, shaking. Detective Adrian Cole was taking her statement. "Mrs. Harper, I know this is difficult," Detective Cole said, his voice gentle. "But what you witnessed, this could be the break we need. These individuals have been terrorizing this community for months." Harper looked at me. I saw the fear in her eyes. But I also saw something else. Determination. "I saw their faces," she whispered. "I saw everything." Detective Cole nodded. "The 3 individuals you identified are known Bloods members. Dominic Dice Marshall is the suspected shooter. The other 2, Kyle Jenkins and Evan Torres, were the drivers and lookouts. They've been linked to 4 other shootings, but we've never had a witness willing to come forward." That last part hung in the air like a threat. Willing to come forward? I repeated. "You mean other people were too scared to testify?" Cole didn't sugarcoat it. "Gang intimidation is real, Mr. Tristan. I won't lie to you. If Harper testifies, there will be risks." I turned to Harper. "You don't have to do this." She grabbed my hand. That boy was 17. He had a mother waiting for him to come home. If I don't speak up, they'll do this to someone else's child. That was Harper, always thinking about someone else's child. The next week was a blur of meetings with prosecutors, security consultations, and sleepless nights. They offered Harper protection during the trial, but after that, we'd be on our own. I tried to talk her out of it. 3 separate times. "Babe, these aren't just gang members. They're Bloods. They have connections everywhere. Inside jails, on the streets, even in police departments sometimes." She kissed Ivy's forehead as our daughter slept between us. "What do I tell her when she's older? That mommy saw someone get murdered and did nothing?" I had no answer for that. The preliminary hearing was set for April 2nd. Harper's testimony would determine if the case went to trial. The day before the hearing, something happened that should have been a warning. Harper was picking up Ivy from school when she found a photo tucked under her windshield wiper. It was a picture of Ivy on the playground. Recent. Taken from across the street. No note. No words. Just the photo. Harper's hands shook as she showed it to me that evening. They know where she goes to school, she whispered. I called Detective Cole immediately. He came to our house within the hour. I'm not going to minimize this, Cole said, examining the photo. This is intimidation. Classic gang tactic. But here's what I can tell you. We've increased patrol around your home and Ivy's school. Unmarked cars. These guys are being watched too. They make one wrong move. We've got them on witness tampering charges. And if they don't make the wrong move? I asked. What if they're smarter than that? Cole met my eyes. Then we need Harper's testimony even more. Because this is what they do. They silence people through fear. If we let them win, Marcus's mother never gets justice. And they keep killing. Harper testified the next day. She walked into that courtroom with her head high. I sat in the gallery, 3 rows back, watching everything. Watching her. Watching them. Dominic, Kyle, and Evan sat at the defense table in orange jumpsuits. No remorse. No fear. Just cold stares directed at my wife. When Harper took the stand, the room went silent. Mrs. Harper, can you tell us what you witnessed on the evening of March 14th? The prosecutor asked. Harper's voice didn't shake. I saw 3 men approach Marcus Johnson. The tallest won him. She pointed at Dominic, pulled out a gun, and shot Marcus 4 times. The other 2 stood watch. Then they got into a dark blue Honda and drove away. I got a partial license plate. The defense attorney tried to rattle her during cross-examination. Isn't it true that it was dark? That you were scared? That you might be mistaken about what you saw? Harper looked right at Dominic. I know exactly what I saw, and I know exactly who pulled that trigger. The judge ordered all 3 held without bail pending trial. We thought we'd won. That night, Harper made Ivy's favorite dinner, spaghetti with the sauce that came from a jar, but Ivy thought was homemade. We laughed. We felt lighter. It's over, Harper said as we cleaned up the kitchen. We did the right thing. I pulled her close. I'm proud of you. But it wasn't over. 2 weeks later, I had overnight training on base. Standard Ranger stuff. I hated leaving them, but Harper insisted. Tristan, we can't live in fear. Cole said they're being monitored. We have security patrols. We're safe. I kissed them both goodbye at 0500 hours. That was the last time I saw Harper alive. Those 2 weeks after Harper testified felt like holding your breath underwater. You know you have to come up eventually, but you keep hoping you can last just a little longer. Detective Cole called the morning after the preliminary hearing. All 3 defendants are locked up at Men's Central Jail. No bail. Maximum security block. Every phone call they make is monitored. Every visitor is logged. We've also got surveillance on their known associates. Harper exhaled for the first time in days. So we're safe. Safer, Cole corrected. But stay alert. We're increasing patrol around your neighborhood and Ivy's school. Life tried to return to normal. Harper went back to Oakwood Elementary. Her students made her welcome back cards. One of them drew a picture of Harper as a superhero with a cape. She cried when she showed it to me. These kids, they don't know what I did, but they know I was gone. They know something happened. I installed new security cameras that week. 4 of them. Front door, back door, driveway, side gate. High definition. Motion activated. Connected to both our phones. This feels like overkill, Harper said, watching me mount the last one. Overkill keeps you alive, I replied. She didn't argue after that. The first week passed quietly. Patrol cars rolled by our house every few hours. I'd see them from the window, sometimes marked units, sometimes unmarked sedans with that obvious government look. It was reassuring. The second week, things changed. Harper called me on a Tuesday afternoon. I was in the middle of tactical training exercises on base. Tristan, I think someone followed me home from school. My blood went cold. What do you mean you think? There was a car. Black Chevy Impala. It was behind me for the last 6 blocks. When I turned onto our street, it slowed down but didn't follow. Just stopped at the corner and sat there. Did you get a license plate? No. I was too focused on getting inside. I'm here now. Doors are locked. Security system is on. Check the cameras. See if you can spot the car. She pulled up the footage on her phone. I see it. It's still at the corner. Just sitting there. I'm calling Cole right now. Do not leave the house. I'm coming home. I reached Detective Cole within 2 minutes. He dispatched a unit immediately. By the time the patrol car arrived, the black Impala was gone. Could be nothing, the responding officer told Harper. Could be someone visiting a neighbor. But we'll increase patrols. And we'll run traffic cameras. See if we can pull a plate. But it wasn't nothing. The next day, Harper noticed the same car in the grocery store parking lot. Different location. Same car. She didn't get out. She drove straight home and called me from the driveway. Tristan, they're watching me. I know. I believe you. Cole's pulling camera footage now. They'll find whoever this is. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept checking the security feeds on my phone. Every car that passed. Every shadow that moved. Harper finally grabbed my phone from my hands around 2 in the morning. You need to rest. You have training tomorrow. I should skip it. Stay home with you and Ivy. No. We can't let them control our lives. Detective Cole has units watching the house. We have cameras. We have alarms. We're doing everything right. She was always the strong one. Always. The call from Cole came 3 days later. We identified the vehicle. Registered to a woman named Jocelyn Cruz. She's got ties to Blood's affiliates, cousin of one of the defendants. We brought her in for questioning. She claimed she was just driving around, denied following anyone. We can't hold her without proof of direct threat, but we've issued a warning. If she comes near your family again, it's automatic arrest for witness intimidation. It should have made us feel better. It didn't. That Friday, I had overnight training scheduled. 24-hour field exercise. Mandatory for all Rangers in my unit. I tried to get out of it. Sir, I have a family situation. My wife testified in a gang case. There have been incidents. My commanding officer cut me off. Tristan, I read the report. Local PD has it handled. You're not doing your wife any favors by hovering. She's got protection. You've got a job. Do it. I almost refused. Almost. Harper convinced me. Tristan, you can't put your career on hold. We have bills. We have Ivy's future to think about. Detective Cole promised extra patrols tonight. We'll be fine. It's one night. I left at 0500 hours. Kissed them both goodbye. Harper was still in her pajamas, holding Ivy, who was half asleep on her shoulder. I love you both more than anything in this world, I said. We know, soldier boy. Now go. We'll see you tomorrow. That was the last conversation I ever had with my wife. The training exercise ran until 2200 hours. Exhausting. Tactical scenarios, live-fire drills, endurance tests. I was filthy, sore, and desperate for sleep. I checked my phone when we finally broke. 3 missed calls from an unknown number. 1 voicemail from Detective Cole. My stomach dropped. I didn't listen to the voicemail. I called Cole directly. He answered on the first ring. Tristan, there's been an incident at your home. You need to get here now. What kind of incident? Is Harper okay? Is Ivy? Just get here. I'll explain when you arrive. I broke every traffic law between the base and my house. 90 miles per hour on empty highways. 100 on straightaways. I called Harper's phone 17 times. No answer. Called the house line. No answer. I saw the lights before I turned onto my street. Red and blue strobing against the night sky. Police cars. An ambulance. Crime scene tape across my front yard. I slammed the brakes, jumped out before the car fully stopped, and ran. A uniformed officer grabbed me. Sir, you can't. That's my house. That's my family. Detective Cole appeared from the crowd. His face told me everything before his words did. Tristan, I'm so sorry. My legs gave out. He caught me. Harper was home with Ivy. Approximately 2100 hours, 2 masked individuals forced entry through the back door. They disabled the security system first. Cut the power. By the time the alarm company notified us, it was too late. Where is she? Where's Harper? Cole's voice cracked. She didn't make it, Tristan. She was shot 3 times. It was quick. She didn't suffer. The world tilted. Everything went silent except for a high-pitched ringing in my ears. "Ivy," I managed to whisper. "She's alive. She's unharmed physically. She was hiding in her bedroom closet." A neighbor heard the shots and called 911. We found Ivy there, covered in. She's in shock. Not speaking. Paramedics checked her. No injuries. But Tristan, she saw her mother. They let me see Ivy at the ambulance. She was wrapped in a blanket, staring at nothing. Her clothes were stained dark. Harper's blood. I knelt in front of her. "Baby girl, it's Daddy. I'm here now." She didn't respond. Didn't blink. Just stared through me with eyes that had seen too much. I lifted her into my arms. She was rigid, shaking. A female paramedic approached gently. "Mr. Tristan, she's in severe shock. We need to take her to the hospital for evaluation. You can ride with us." I nodded, unable to speak. As they loaded Ivy into the ambulance, I looked back at my house. My home. The place where we'd celebrated birthdays and holidays. Where Ivy took her first steps. Where Harper and I danced in the kitchen to no music. Now it was a crime scene. Detective Cole approached one more time before we left. "Tristan, we will find who did this. I swear to you, we will find them." I looked at him with something I'd never felt before. Not in war. Not in combat. A cold, calculated fury. "I already know who did this," I said quietly. "And if you don't find them, I will." The hospital kept Ivy for 3 days. Severe psychological trauma. Selective mutism. That's what the doctors called it when your 6-year-old daughter stopped speaking because she watched her mother die. I never left her side. Slept in the chair next to her bed. Held her hand while she stared at the ceiling. The nurses brought coloring books, toys, tablets with games. Ivy didn't touch any of it. She just lay there, silent, barely eating. A child psychologist named Dr. Brennan came on the second day. She was young, kind-faced, spoke in soft tones. "Mr. Tristan, Ivy experienced something no child should ever witness. Her mind has essentially shut down the verbal part of her brain as a protection mechanism. She may start speaking again in days, weeks, or months. We can't predict. What she needs now is safety, routine, and patience. How do I help her?" My voice sounded hollow even to myself. "Just be present. Don't force her to talk about it. Let her process in her own time. And consider therapy, for both of you. Both of us. Because I was broken too." Detective Cole visited on the 3rd day. He found me in the hospital cafeteria at 4 in the morning, drinking terrible coffee because sleep was impossible. "We have preliminary findings," he said, sitting across from me. "Forced entry through the back door. Lock was picked, not kicked in. Professional job. They cut the power to disable your security system first. No fingerprints. No DNA. No witnesses except Ivy, and she can't tell us what she saw." "What about the cameras?" "I had 4 cameras. Disabled before they went offline. We recovered the footage up until the power cut. Shows 2 figures approaching from the alley behind your house. Both masked, both wearing gloves. We're running gait analysis, height estimates, but it's not much." I set down my coffee cup carefully because I wanted to throw it through the wall. "The 3 men Harper testified against. Where were they?" "Still locked up. All 3. Verified. They were in their cells during the time of the murder. But Tristan, we both know they didn't have to be there. They have people on the outside. Jocelyn Cruz. The woman who was following Harper." Cole nodded slowly. "We brought her in for questioning again. She has an alibi. Says she was at work. Her employer confirmed it. But we're digging deeper. Looking at phone records, associates, financial transactions. You're looking in the wrong places." Cole frowned. "What do you mean?" "You're looking at the street. You should be looking at the jail. Those 3 are locked up, but they're still communicating. Smuggled phones. Coded messages through visitors. Letters. These guys run operations from inside all the time." "You're right. We've requested all phone logs and visitor records for Dominic, Kyle, and Evan. It takes time. Time is what got my wife killed." I stood up. "While you're waiting on paperwork, they're destroying evidence." Cole stood too. his voice firm but not unkind. Tristan, I understand your frustration, but we have to do this by the book. If we don't, they walk on technicalities. Let us do our job. I wanted to believe him, but I'd seen how systems worked, how people slipped through cracks. Harper's funeral was held on a gray Saturday morning. Small service, just family and close friends. Her parents flew in from Oregon. Her father could barely stand. Her mother hadn't stopped crying since she arrived. Ivy sat on my lap during the service, still silent, clutching a stuffed rabbit Harper had given her for her 5th birthday. She didn't cry, didn't react, just stared at the casket like it was something she didn't understand. The priest said words about heaven and peace and eternal rest. I didn't hear most of it. I kept thinking about the last thing I'd said to Harper, "See you tomorrow." A promise I didn't keep. After they lowered the casket, Harper's mother approached me. Her eyes were red, her voice shaking. "What are the police doing? Have they arrested anyone?" "They're investigating." "Investigating? My daughter is dead, Tristan. Dead because she did the right thing. And no one's paying for it." I had no answer. What could I say? That the system was working? That justice takes time? Her father put a hand on her shoulder, led her away. But his look said everything. He blamed me for not protecting his daughter. Maybe he was right. That night, after everyone left, I sat in Ivy's room watching her sleep. She looked peaceful finally, like the world couldn't touch her in her dreams. I pulled out my phone and opened the photos. Hundreds of Harper. Harper laughing. Harper with Ivy. Harper on our wedding day. Harper making pancakes on Sunday mornings. Then I opened something else. The court transcripts from the preliminary hearing. I'd requested them through the prosecutor's office. 200 pages of testimony, evidence, legal arguments. I started reading. By 3 in the morning, I'd read every word twice. Made notes. Cross-referenced names. Built a timeline. Dominic Marshall. Age 29. Known Bloods member since age 15. Previous arrests for assault, drug distribution, weapons charges. 2 prior convictions. Currently awaiting trial for first-degree murder. Kyle Jenkins. Age 26. Enforcer. Known for violent retaliation against rivals and witnesses. No convictions. Every case against him had fallen apart when witnesses disappeared or recanted. Evan Torres. Age 31. The driver. The logistics guy. Smart. 3 years of college before dropping out. Ran drug operations across South LA. But there was a 4th name buried in the prosecution's evidence list. Someone mentioned only twice in the transcripts. Quentin Marks. Street name. Q. The prosecution had noted him as a person of interest in gang hierarchy but hadn't charged him. Why? Because he was already in prison serving 15 years for racketeering. But here's what caught my attention. Dominic had visited Quentin in prison 3 times in the month before Marcus's murder. Phone records showed 17 calls between them. And 2 days after Harper testified, someone deposited $5,000 into an account belonging to Jocelyn Cruz. I pulled up my laptop and started digging deeper. Military intelligence training teaches you how to find patterns in chaos, how to track communications, how to identify command structures. By sunrise, I had a theory. Quentin was calling the shots from prison. Dominic, Kyle, and Evan were his soldiers on the outside. When Harper testified, Quentin ordered the hit. Jocelyn Cruz was the coordinator. She had access to information, maybe connections inside the court system that provided Harper's address and schedule. I needed proof. I called Detective Cole at 0700 hours. I found something. We need to meet. Tristan, it's 6 in the morning on a Sunday. I know who ordered Harper's murder. And I know how to prove it. There was a long pause. I'll be there in 30 minutes. I made coffee. Real coffee, not the swill from the hospital. While it brewed, I checked on Ivy. Still sleeping. Still silent. "I'm going to fix this, baby girl," I whispered. "Daddy's going to make sure they pay for what they did to Mommy." When Cole arrived, I laid out everything. The transcripts. The prison visits. The phone records. The money trail to Jocelyn. He studied my notes for 10 minutes without speaking. Finally, he looked up. This is good work. Better than good. But it's circumstantial. A defense attorney would shred this. We need hard evidence. Recordings. Testimony from inside sources. Then get it. It's not that simple. Make it simple. My voice came out harder than I intended. Because right now, Harper's killers are free. And I'm the one explaining to my daughter why her mother isn't coming home. Cole met my eyes. For the first time, I saw something shift in his expression. Determination. Give me 1 week. I'll take this to the FBI. Gang Task Force. If Quentin's running operations from inside, that's federal jurisdiction. RICO charges. They have resources we don't. 1 week, I agreed. After that, I handle it my way. He didn't ask what I meant. He knew. 1 week turned into 10 days. Detective Cole kept his promise. He brought in the FBI. 2 federal agents showed up at my temporary apartment. A small 2-bedroom I'd rented because I couldn't step foot in our house. Everything there was evidence now. Tagged, photographed, cataloged. Even if it wasn't, I'd never take Ivy back to the place where she watched her mother die. The agents were professionals. Clean suits, firm handshakes, careful words. Mr. Tristan, I'm Special Agent Morgan Bennett. This is Special Agent Blake Lawson. We're with the FBI's Gang Task Force. Detective Cole shared your findings with us. We'd like to discuss them further. I let them in. Ivy was in her room, still not speaking, playing silently with blocks. Therapy sessions twice a week hadn't changed anything yet. Dr. Brennan said to be patient. But patience felt like surrender. Morgan sat across from me, pulled out a tablet. We've been building a case against the Bloods organization for 2 years. Your wife's testimony was crucial. Her murder, it fits a pattern we've been tracking. A pattern? My jaw tightened. Blake nodded. In the last 18 months, 4 witnesses in gang-related cases have either been killed or disappeared before trial. All of them testified against high-ranking Bloods members. All of them had their cases collapse afterward. Morgan swiped through files on her tablet. Quentin Marks is the common denominator. He's serving 15 years at Corcoran State Prison, but our intelligence suggests he's still running operations. Ordering hits. Coordinating drug distribution. Witness intimidation. He does it all from behind bars. So arrest him again. Add charges. It's not that simple, Blake said. Prison communication is tricky. Coded language. Burner phones smuggled in by corrupt guards. Visitors who pass messages. We need someone on the inside or concrete evidence that directly links him to specific crimes. Morgan leaned forward. Your analysis of the phone records, the money transfers to Jocelyn Cruz, the prison visits. It's exactly what we needed to move forward. We've been granted warrants to access Quentin's cell, his communications, his visitor logs. We're building a RICO case. Racketeering, murder for hire, conspiracy. If we do this right, we take down the entire leadership structure. How long? I asked. 6 months. Maybe less if we can flip someone on the inside. 6 months. Harper would still be dead. Ivy would still be traumatized. And the men responsible would still be breathing. There's something else, Morgan said carefully. We want you to testify. I looked at her. Testify to what? I wasn't there. I didn't witness anything. You're a military intelligence analyst. You have 15 years of experience identifying operational patterns, command structures, communication networks. We need you to explain to a jury how these organizations function, how orders flow from leadership to soldiers, how Quentin could orchestrate Harper's murder from inside a maximum security prison. Blake added, your testimony would be expert witness testimony. It gives context. It connects dots that a jury might not see on their own. And it makes me a target. Morgan didn't deny it. Yes, it does. Which is why we're offering you an IV placement and witness protection. New identities. Relocation. 24-hour security until trial. I stood up, walked to the window. Outside, kids were playing in a park across the street. Normal kids with normal lives. Ivy used to be one of them. My wife testified because she thought it was the right thing to do, and they killed her for it. Now you want me to do the same thing. We want to stop them from doing it to someone else's wife, Morgan said quietly. To someone else's family. I thought about Harper's last words to me. About teaching Ivy that doing the right thing matters. About Marcus Johnson's mother who never got justice. I need to think about it. Blake stood. We understand. But Tristan, we have a window here. Quentin doesn't know we're building this case yet. The moment he finds out, evidence disappears. Witnesses get intimidated. We need to move fast. They left me their cards. I spent the rest of the day staring at them. That night, I made Ivy her favorite meal, grilled cheese and tomato soup. She ate 3 bites. Progress, Dr. Brennan would say. I tried to see it that way. After dinner, I sat with her on the couch. We watched a cartoon movie about talking animals. She didn't laugh, but she watched. Her small hand rested in mine. Halfway through the movie, I paused it. Ivy, I need to talk to you about something important. She looked at me with those big eyes. Harper's eyes. Some people are asking me to help them. To make sure the bad people who hurt Mommy go to jail. But if I do that, we'd have to move away for a while. New house. New city. Just you and me. It might be scary, but it would keep us safe. She didn't respond. Just stared. I don't know what to do, baby girl. Mommy always knew the right answer. I'm not sure anymore. Ivy's lips moved. No sound came out at first. Then, so quietly I almost missed it, Mommy said do the right thing. My breath caught. Those were the first words she'd spoken in 2 weeks. What did you say? She looked at me, tears streaming down her face. Mommy said do the right thing. Before the bad men came. She told me, if anything happens, do the right thing. I pulled her into my arms as she finally broke down crying. Real crying. The kind that's been trapped inside for too long. That's my brave girl. That's Mommy's brave girl. We held each other for a long time. When she finally quieted, I wiped her tears. You're right. Mommy would want us to do the right thing. The next morning, I called Morgan Bennett. I'll testify, but I have conditions. Ivy's safety comes first. If I think for 1 second she's in danger, we disappear. No argument. No FBI protocol. We're gone. Agreed, Morgan said immediately. We'll have a protection detail assigned within 24 hours. You'll meet with prosecutors next week to begin prep. And Tristan, thank you. You're doing what your wife started. You're finishing her fight. No, I corrected. I'm starting mine. 3 days later, a black SUV picked us up. 2 federal marshals, stone-faced, armed, professional. They drove us to a safe house 2 hours outside Los Angeles. Rural area, gated property, security cameras everywhere. The house was nice. 3 bedrooms, fenced yard, quiet. Ivy looked around with wide eyes. Is this our new home? For now, baby. Just for a little while. She nodded, gripping her stuffed rabbit tighter. Marshall Reynolds, the lead agent, ran through security protocols. Panic buttons. Check-in procedures. No contact with anyone outside approved channels. You're ghosts until trial, he explained. No social media. No phone calls except through encrypted lines. No visitors. We'll have agents outside 24/7. I looked at Ivy coloring at the kitchen table, finally starting to look like herself again. How long? I asked. 4 to 6 months. Maybe less if the case moves fast. 4 to 6 months of hiding. Of living in fear. Of letting them control our lives. But also 4 to 6 months of building the case that would destroy them. Harper had been brave enough to stand up. Now it was my turn. That night, after Ivy fell asleep, I stood in the backyard under a sky full of stars. Somewhere out there, Quentin Marks thought he'd won. Thought he'd silenced Harper and scared everyone else into submission. He was wrong. I wasn't just a grieving husband anymore. I was a soldier with a mission. And soldiers don't quit until the mission is complete. The safe house felt like a cage wrapped in safety measures. Every morning started the same. Marshall Reynolds would do a perimeter check at 0600. I'd make Ivy breakfast, usually pancakes or eggs, whatever I could manage with limited cooking skills. She'd eat slowly, then spend the morning with her therapist via video call. Dr. Brennan said Ivy was making progress. speaking more, processing her trauma. But I saw the way she flinched at loud noises, the way she checked every window before going to bed, the way she asked me 3 times a day if the bad men knew where we were. No, baby. We're safe here. I promise. Promises felt dangerous now. I'd promised Harper I'd see her the next day. I'd promised Ivy her mommy would always be there. But this promise I'd keep, even if it killed me. 2 weeks into our stay, Morgan Bennett arrived with boxes of files. She set up in the dining room, spread documents across the table like a war map. "We need your expertise," she said. "You've studied these organizations. You understand command structure. We need you to break down how Quentin runs operations from inside." I pulled up a chair. This was familiar territory. Intelligence analysis. Finding patterns in chaos. Morgan showed me surveillance photos. Dozens of faces. These are known Blood's associates. We've been monitoring them for months. "Tell me what you see." I studied them carefully. Not just faces, body language, positioning in group photos, who stood where. This one, I pointed to a younger guy in 3 different photos. He's a courier. See how he's always on the periphery? Never central. He's not leadership. He's delivery. His name is Marcus Webb. Small time. We've had eyes on him. Watch his phone records. Couriers connect people who don't want direct contact. I moved to another photo. This woman. She appears in 4 different locations with 4 different men. She's a coordinator. Probably handles money or messages. Brianna Soto. We suspected but couldn't confirm. For 3 hours, I broke down their network. Morgan took notes furiously. "You're better at this than half our analysts," she said. I'm motivated. Over the next month, this became my routine. Ivy would do schoolwork online. Her new school thought we'd relocated for my military assignment. I'd work with Morgan and Blake, building the case piece by piece. They brought me phone records from the prison. Hundreds of calls between Quentin and his visitors. All recorded but coded. Listen to this one. Blake played an audio file. Quentin's talking to his girlfriend about groceries. I listened. On the surface, it sounded innocent. "Yeah, baby. Pick up 2 pounds of ground beef and 3 chickens. Play it again." Blake replayed it. This time I heard it. 2 pounds, 3 chickens. He's ordering 2 hits on 3 targets. Ground beef, someone who talked to the feds. Chickens, witnesses. Morgan leaned forward. "How do you know?" "Military intelligence. You learn to decode enemy communications. Different words, same concept. He's not actually talking about groceries. His girlfriend doesn't even cook. We know that from surveillance. He's giving orders disguised as shopping lists." Blake and Morgan exchanged looks. "We need you to explain this to a jury. Make them understand how this works." I can do that. But the defense attorneys had other plans. Preston Hale was the lead attorney for Quentin and the other defendants. Former prosecutor turned high-priced defense lawyer. Sharp, ruthless, known for destroying witnesses on cross-examination. His motions started arriving in the 3rd week. Morgan showed me the filings. Motion to exclude expert testimony from Tristan Ward on grounds of bias and lack of professional credentials. I read through it. Hale argued I wasn't a credentialed gang expert, that I was a grieving husband seeking revenge, that my testimony would be emotional, not factual. "He's trying to block you from testifying," Morgan explained. "If the judge grants this, we lose a major piece of our case." Can he do that? He can try. We're filing opposition. Arguing your military intelligence background qualifies you as an expert in organizational structure and coded communications. But it's going to be a fight. The media made it worse. Somehow, and Morgan suspected a leak from Hale's team, the story got out. Army Ranger seeks revenge through courts. The headline ran in the Los Angeles Times. The article painted me as a vigilante using the legal system as a weapon. It questioned my motives, my credibility, my mental state. Tristan Ward, whose wife was murdered after testifying against gang members, has inserted himself into the federal prosecution's case. Legal experts question whether his involvement is about justice or personal vengeance. I threw the tablet across the room after reading it. Marshall Reynolds picked it up calmly. Don't let them get in your head. That's what they want. They're making me look like I'm the problem. You're not. You're the solution. That's why they're scared. But the attacks kept coming. Defense attorney Natalie Cross, representing Dominic Marshall, filed a motion claiming I'd made threats against her client. Completely fabricated, Morgan assured me. But they're trying to paint you as unstable, as someone who can't be trusted. The judge scheduled a hearing to decide if I could testify as an expert witness. Morgan prepped me for 2 days straight. Hill will come at you hard. He'll ask about your emotional state, about your wife's death. He'll try to make you lose your temper on the stand. You cannot give him that satisfaction. I can handle it. I know you can. But Tristan, this is different from military ops. This is legal warfare. And they fight dirty. The hearing was held in a closed courtroom. No media. Just the judge, attorneys, and me. Preston Hale stood when I entered. Expensive suit, calm smile, predator's eyes. Mr. Ward, thank you for joining us. I didn't respond. Just took my seat. For 90 minutes, Hale questioned my qualifications, my training, my objectivity. Every question was designed to undermine me. Mr. Ward, isn't it true you have no formal education in gang studies? I have 15 years of military intelligence experience analyzing organizational structures and enemy communications. But not gangs specifically. The principles are the same. Command hierarchy, operational security, coded messaging. An insurgent cell in Afghanistan operates the same way a gang does in Los Angeles. Except your wife wasn't killed by insurgents, was she? She was killed because of these defendants. And now you want revenge. Morgan objected. Argumentative. The judge sustained it, but Hale had planted the seed. Mr. Ward, how many times have you thought about hurting the defendants? Never. I want them in prison, not dead. But you're angry. Yes. You want them punished. Yes. And you'll say whatever it takes to make that happen. I leaned forward. I'll tell the truth. That's all I've ever done. If the truth puts them in prison for life, then that's where they belong. Hill smiled. No further questions. The judge took 2 days to rule. When the decision came, Morgan called me immediately. You're in. The judge ruled your military experience qualifies you as an expert in organizational behavior and communication analysis. You're testifying. Relief flooded through me. When trial starts in 6 weeks. We're in the final stretch now. 6 weeks until I'd face Quentin Marks in court. 6 weeks until I'd look him in the eye and tell a jury exactly how he orchestrated my wife's murder. That night, I found Ivy in her room, drawing pictures. She'd started drawing again last week. Dr. Brennan said it was a good sign. What are you drawing, baby girl? She held it up. A house with 3 people in front. Me, her, and Harper. Harper had angel wings. That's beautiful. When we go home, can we visit Mommy? Yes. When this is all over, we'll visit her. And we'll tell her we did what she asked. We did the right thing. Ivy nodded and went back to coloring. She added flowers around the house. Yellow ones. Harper's favorite. I watched her and felt something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. Life in the new safe house was supposed to be a fresh start. A place where Ivy could begin healing and where I could prepare for the trial ahead. The isolated cabin, nestled deep in the mountains, promised quiet and security. But silence breeds suspicion, and safety is an illusion when betrayal hides in plain sight. For weeks, the protection detail was tight. Every movement scrutinized, every call monitored, every face a reminder I couldn't fully trust. The agents assigned to us were skilled, professional, and heavy with purpose. Yet, something dark lurked under the surface, unseen but deeply felt. Late one afternoon, as Ivy played quietly inside with her blocks, I sat at the worn wooden table, sifting through intercepted communications from the prison. The coded messages from Quentin and his network started making faint sense with each passing day. But just as I was piecing together this complex puzzle, my phone vibrated sharply. It was a secure alert, a direct line from Special Agent Blake Lawson. Blake's voice was tight, almost cracking with urgency. Tristan, this isn't easy to say. We intercepted some troubling communications on a burner phone we've been monitoring. This phone is linked directly to Quentin Marks' inner circle. My chest tightened. I braced for what was coming. We believe the communications are coming from inside the FBI's protection unit assigned to you and Ivy. The words felt like bullets striking the very air. Betrayal from within. Someone meant to protect us was playing for the other side. What are you saying, Blake? He inhaled deeply. We don't have a name yet, but the device's messages include your coordinates, schedules, and security rotations. I sat back, stunned, the weight slowly sinking in. How do you fight a war when the enemy hides among your own ranks? That evening, Morgan Bennett arrived at the safe house. Her usual composed demeanor was slightly cracked by concern. We have to lock everything down immediately. No contact, no movement outside protocols. Everyone is under scrutiny until we find the mole. Agents began sweeping the compound, checking IDs, searching for anything out of place. The atmosphere tightened like a noose. Trust was stripped away in a heartbeat. But after days of constant observation, the culprit remained hidden. No suspicious behavior, no unauthorized access traced. Just a slow-burning suspicion eating away at the edge of my sanity. I started watching those assigned to us more closely. An agent named Felix Grant drew my attention, not because he was obvious, but because he was too quiet, too calm, and too contained. One cold evening, after Ivy was tucked in bed, I found Felix alone in the kitchen making a phone call on what looked like a burner device hidden in his jacket pocket. I didn't call out. I waited until he was done and then quietly confronted him. Felix's face was pale, sweat glistening on his brow. The mask of professionalism slipped, revealing raw fear and despair. They have my family, he confessed hoarsely. Quentin's people threatened them. They said if I didn't cooperate, my wife and kids wouldn't be safe. His words twisted around my guts like a knife. I reported him immediately. The agents arrested Felix that night. His confession confirmed a horrifying truth. Quentin's reach was far beyond prison walls, corrupting even those sworn to protect. But the damage was done. Our location, once a fortress, was compromised. The safe house lost its sanctity. We were moved again, this time to an undisclosed location miles away, guarded by a completely new detail. The change was necessary, but jarring. Ivy was scared, clinging to me every night, whispering questions about when the bad men would find us. I told you, baby girl, I whispered in the dark, they won't touch us here. Yet, I knew deception runs deeper than locks and guns. The trust lost was never easy to regain. Morgan reassured me. Felix's betrayal is a setback, Tristan, but it hasn't stopped us. We're tightening security and uncovering every loose thread. This case is bigger than any one leak. I nodded silently. My resolve hardened. Quentin Marks was a spider with a tangled web, but every web has a breaking point. Months of preparation followed. Ivy slowly came out of her shell. She started speaking again, with hesitation, but with growing courage. Therapy remained a battlefield, but she fought with a quiet bravery. Meanwhile, testifying loomed over me like a storm on the horizon. Morgan and Blake coordinated the final pieces of the case. Evidence was stacked high. Phone records, prison calls, intercepted messages, undercover informants ready to testify. Yet, it was the betrayal from within that sharpened my focus. The knowledge that the enemy could appear as an ally forced me to trust only myself, to rely on my own instincts, hardened by years in the military. Each night, as Ivy slept uneasily beside me, I reviewed my testimony. How to explain complex gang operations to civilians. How to detail Quentin's extensive reach without losing the jury in jargon. It wasn't just about facts. It was about telling a story of betrayal, loss, and justice. And most importantly, it was about keeping a promise. A promise to Harper. I was no longer an ordinary husband or a grieving father. I was the last witness, the final defender, and I would see this fight through, no matter the cost. The federal courthouse was like stepping into a different world. White marble, gleaming brass, hushed voices in the hallways. But inside, war was being waged, not with guns, but with words, evidence, and hidden agendas. Trial day arrived quickly. Months of preparation, deliberation, and nerve-wracking waiting had come down to this moment. I stood in the hallway outside courtroom 7B, clad in a well-fitted suit that felt more like armor than clothing. Ivy sat quietly beside me, clutching her rabbit toy. She was scared but trying to be brave. So was I? The judge called the session to order. The courtroom filled quickly, prosecutors, defense attorneys, jurors, media. Quentin Marks and his associates, Dominic Marshall, Kyle Jenkins, and Evan Torres, sat handcuffed at the defense table, faces cold and impassive. The prosecution opened with a powerful statement, laying out the case against the Bloods' leadership, how they ran a violent, omnipresent gang organization orchestrating murder, drug trafficking, and witness intimidation. How their target had been Harper, killed for doing the right thing. When my time came to testify, I stepped up, nerves stealing into calm. I explained, clearly and simply, the structure of gang organizations, comparing them to military units I'd studied. How leadership in prison gave orders that traveled through layers of intermediaries down to the soldiers on the street. How communications used coded language to avoid detection, and how smuggled devices broke down barriers and commanded mayhem from behind bars. I detailed the intercepted calls between Quentin and his associates, explaining the meaning behind the code words, the significance of contacts like Jocelyn Cruz, and how those communications led directly to the murder of my wife. The defense tried to undermine everything. Preston Hale, lead defense attorney, had prepared meticulously for my testimony. He cross-examined me relentlessly. He challenged my credentials, painting me as a grieving husband with a vendetta rather than an impartial analyst. He questioned every assertion, every interpretation of military intelligence principles applied to gang operations. Is it possible you're biased? He asked pointedly. That your need for justice clouds your judgment? I responded calmly. My testimony is based on data, evidence, and analysis developed over 15 years in military intelligence. My personal loss does not change the facts. As Hayden, the defense attorney, saw my firmness, his tactics shifted to emotional attacks. Mr. Ward, your wife's death is tragic. But isn't it true that your grief might be driving you to exaggerate? To see conspiracies where there are none? I'm here to present the truth. I'm not an expert in emotion. I'm an expert in evidence. The courtroom murmured. The defense also tried to discredit my analysis on the coded communications. Your interpretation is speculative. Natalie Cross, representing Dominic, argued. We don't have a dictionary of gang slang, and your conclusions are assumptions. I countered. The patterns align with recognized intelligence decoding methods. Language, timing, context, all consistent with known tactics. Midway through the proceedings, the prosecution called witnesses, former gang members, undercover informants, law enforcement officers, each adding pieces to the mosaic of corruption and crime. Quentin sat expressionless, occasionally whispering with his counsel. I knew he was plotting his defense, desperately trying to dismantle the case. The tension in the courtroom was palpable, like the calm before a storm. On one day, the defense produced a surprise, a video of me at Ivy's hospital bedside, looking visibly distressed. They played it repeatedly, trying to portray me as unstable and distracted. I felt the strain, but answered each question with honesty and poise. Through it all, Ivy sat beside me, silent yet strong. After days of testimony, the judge allowed a recess. I took Ivy outside for fresh air. The weight of what we were fighting for pressed down hard, but I saw a flicker of hope in her eyes, a fragile resilience. The courtroom battle was far from over. Defense attorneys were digging into every flaw in our case, every inconsistency. But I knew this war was not just about words or evidence. It was about truth, and I was ready to face whatever came next. The courtroom was tense, every eye fixed on the proceedings. Just when it seemed the trial was progressing with the expected twists and legal battles, the unexpected slammed down like a hammer. Weeks into the trial, after my testimony and the prosecution's prepared witnesses had laid down their evidence piece by piece, the defense was beginning to lose ground. The evidence was solid. The prison phone records, the coded communications I'd decoded, the financial trails leading to the mysterious Jocelyn Cruz who coordinated operations outside the prison walls. But then came the bombshell no one was ready for. A surprise witness emerged from the shadows. Ryder, a former high-ranking Bloods member, turned informant after a raid in a neighboring state. He walked into the courtroom with the weight of his past heavy on his shoulders, but eyes sharp and determined. The room held its breath. Ryder's testimony started quietly, but quickly escalated into shockwaves. He revealed the dark truth no one expected. While the public and authorities had believed Quentin Marks was the mastermind behind the murder and gang operations, the real architect of Harper's death was someone far more insidious, hidden deep within the very justice system. Judge Victor Sullivan, presiding over the case with an ostensibly impartial stance, had a secret nobody suspected. Jocelyn Cruz, the woman who'd been coordinating Quentin's orders from the outside, wasn't just a gang affiliate. She was Judge Sullivan's personal court clerk. Ryder explained that Jocelyn's family had long-standing ties with the Bloods. She had access to sealed court documents, schedules, and even confidential witness protection records through the judge's chambers. This gave her priceless information that she funneled directly to Quentin and his crew. With this inside knowledge, Jocelyn had ensured Harper's whereabouts and even Ivy's routine were exposed, setting the stage for the murder. The courtroom erupted in gasps and whispers. The defense team scrambled while the prosecution sat stunned, but listening intently. The judge himself was visibly shaken but maintained a stern facade. As Ryder detailed Jocelyn's role, her recent unusual absences and suspicious communications, prosecutors moved quickly. Within hours, federal marshals arrested Jocelyn at her home, charging her with obstruction of justice, conspiracy, and aiding a criminal organization. Her arrest rocked the entire judicial community. News crews waited outside the courthouse, broadcasting live updates about the unprecedented corruption scandal. This revelation shifted the entire narrative of the trial. Quentin Marks was no longer just a criminal mastermind operating from prison. He had a powerful insider protector within the justice system. For me, the exposure of Jocelyn was bittersweet. It proved everything I'd suspected, but revealed a deeper rot in the system designed to protect witnesses like Harper. It was also a stark reminder of the dangers Ivy and I had faced and the fragile safety net we clung to. The courtroom tightened its grip on the trial after Jocelyn's arrest. Prosecutors unleashed further evidence uncovered from her devices, communications, payments, and plans detailing witness intimidation and evidence tampering. With the entire conspiracy exposed, jury members absorbed every word with a new intensity. The paths linking Quentin, his gang, and the judge's clerk cemented the narrative of a multi-layered web of betrayal and manipulation that had led to my wife's death. Yet as the defense tried to regain footing, striking back by questioning the credibility of informant Ryder, the tide was turning fast. Morgan Bennett, the lead prosecutor, called me back to the stand to explain the emotional and factual weight of discovering a judicial insider neutralizing justice itself. I spoke quietly but clearly. Witness protection is only as strong as the system supporting it. When that system is compromised, it becomes a nightmare. Jocelyn Cruz betrayed the oath of every officer, lawyer, and judge sworn to protect the truth. My voice trembled slightly as I thought of Harper, of the woman who had died fighting to stand up for what was right. At trial's end, closing arguments emphasized the dual evil of gang violence and judicial corruption. My testimony, alongside Ryder's unflinching courage, had pierced through the smog of intimidation and lies. Months of work, a lifetime of grief, and the pursuit of justice were distilled into this courtroom battle. Outside the courthouse, media coverage became relentless. Ivy, now beginning to smile again and speak freely, was shielded from the public but understood the growing impact of the trial. Judge Sullivan recused himself following Jocelyn's arrest, amid calls from the public and legal peers questioning the integrity of his court. As proceedings moved toward final verdicts, the full scale of the trial's revelations transformed a story of brutal gang violence into a cautionary tale of corruption, loyalty, heartbreak, and hard-won justice. For me, it was not just about winning in court. It was about reclaiming the honor of Harper's name, protecting Ivy's future, and ensuring no family would suffer in silence again. The courtroom was packed, the air thick with tension. Every person in the room knew this trial had already exposed betrayal, violence, and corruption, but none were prepared for the shock that was about to unfold. Ryder, the former high-ranking Bloods member turned informant, took the stand. His voice was steady, though lined with the weight of his past, as he revealed the hidden layers behind the murder of Harper and the gang's operations. He spoke of secrets that no one had anticipated, about how the real mastermind behind the entire scheme wasn't just Quentin Marks, the incarcerated kingpin. No, the plot ran deeper, touching the very pillars of the judicial system meant to protect the innocent. He revealed that Jocelyn Cruz, the court clerk managing sealed documents and schedules, was far more involved than previously thought. She wasn't just a conduit for gang leaders. She was the silent architect inside the court system, shielding gang members by leaking confidential information, details that allowed the gang to operate with impunity and orchestrate attacks on witnesses like Harper. Her connection with the judge, Victor Sullivan, was an explosive revelation. Family ties and blind loyalty had compromised the very court presiding over the case. Thus, the judge who had seemed impartial was overseeing a trial riddled with conflicts of interest. The courtroom erupted in murmurs and whispers. Defense lawyers scrambled, their composure shattered. Morgan Bennett, the lead prosecutor, quickly moved to have Jocelyn arrested on charges including obstruction of justice, conspiracy, and aiding a criminal enterprise. The national media caught wind instantly. News stations swarmed outside the courthouse, living stream coverage broadcasting the unprecedented judicial scandal unfolding. For me, this revelation was both vindication and heartbreak. It was proof of everything we had feared, but worse, a systemic betrayal that allowed gangs like Bloods to flourish and silence justice through internal corruption. The prosecution used the confiscated files from Jocelyn's devices as damning evidence. Photos, messages, payment records, and plans detailed how witnesses were tracked, intimidated, or worse. Her arrest marked a turning point, transforming a brutal criminal case into a symbol of the fight against widespread corruption. Quentin Marks's image shifted from mere street thug to a cog in a corrupt machine that extended its reach into the court itself. Throughout the rest of the trial, Morgan and the team aggressively used this new evidence to dismantle the defense's attempts to undermine the case. The jury became visibly engaged, aware that this was about fighting not just gang violence, but protecting the truth corrupted at many levels. Despite the defense's efforts to discredit Ryder's testimony, painting him as a liar and opportunist, the weight of facts was overwhelming. My own final testimony reinforced the horrific impact of the betrayal from within. I described the psychological toll of knowing the very system meant to protect us had been compromised by Jocelyn's treachery. Ivy, sitting beside me, clung tightly to her stuffed rabbit, watching every moment. She was beginning to understand, on her level, the stakes involved. After weeks of exhausting testimony, closing arguments emphasized that the fight wasn't over until every culprit was held accountable, from gang leaders on the streets to corrupt individuals inside the courts. When the jury finally retired to deliberate, the courtroom felt like a pressure cooker, counting on them to deliver justice for Harper, for Ivy, and for every family torn apart by this tragedy. This part importantly highlights the second major twist: the corruption within the judicial system, embodied by Jocelyn Cruz's betrayal as court clerk connected to Judge Sullivan, which elevated the stakes of the trial and added a shocking dimension to the battle for justice. The narrative is consistent, emotionally engaging, logical, and maintains the pacing and tone you requested. The day of the verdict was one I had both dreaded and awaited for so long. Months of trials, testimonies, unimaginable pain, and countless sleepless nights all came down to this moment in the massive federal courtroom. I sat beside Ivy, gripping her small hand tightly, feeling her hesitant but hopeful energy clash with the heavy shadows of our past. Ivy was no longer the silent, broken girl who watched her mother die. She was learning to speak, to hope, and to believe in a future beyond grief. The judge's voice broke through the tense quiet. On charges of racketeering, conspiracy, murder for hire, and obstruction of justice, the defendants Quentin Marks, Dominic Marshall, Kyle Jenkins, Evan Torres, and Jocelyn Cruz are found guilty on all counts. The courtroom seemed to exhale a long-held breath. For years, families like mine had waited for this day, a day when justice would be more than just a word, but something real and tangible. Life sentences without parole were pronounced. No early freedom, no light punishments. The ruling made clear that those who destroyed innocent lives and corrupted the very system of justice would never walk free again. Outside, as the verdict became public, the media hailed this case as groundbreaking, exposing layers of corruption entwined with violent gangs and delivering a message that no one was above the law. Morgan Bennett, the lead prosecutor who had been with this case every step, came to me after the trial. "Tristan, it was your wife's bravery and your relentless determination that brought this case to its conclusion. This verdict is a victory for every victim silenced by fear." I nodded, my throat tight, but my spirit steady. "Harper started this fight. I'm just honored to carry the torch forward. This isn't about revenge anymore. It's about protecting the silent, the broken, the ones still living in fear." We soon left the city behind, moving to a peaceful coastal town miles away, seeking peace and anonymity. Ivy began attending school again, joining a nurturing community where she could rebuild her childhood. Watching her laughter return and her courage blossom was the most healing sight in the world. One crisp autumn afternoon, we visited Harper's grave. Ivy placed a bunch of bright yellow chrysanthemums, Harper's favorite, and whispered, "Mommy, we did it. I kept my promise." I knelt beside my daughter and added quietly, "Your mother's courage sparked a fire that won't die out. Your strength will carry it on." The dark cloud that once hung over us was lifting, replaced by a fragile but growing light. And now, dear listener, after walking this journey with us, there is a question I want to ask you. When the world seems broken and betrayal runs deep, where do you find your strength? How do you choose to fight for justice when the odds look impossible? Your story matters. Your voice matters. And your choices shape the stories I bring you. If this story touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and comment below where you are watching from, and what kinds of stories pull you in the most, whether tales of betrayal, justice, quiet revenge, or healing after loss. I promise to bring you stories crafted with those themes, shaped by your wishes and the voices of viewers like you. This isn't just entertainment. It's a shared journey into the depths of human struggle and hope. Thank you for joining this story. Stay strong, stay kind, and until the next epic tale filled with thrills, revenge, and justice, I'll see you soon. Story finished.